there. We talked today in class about the domain and range of functions and identifying whether or not a graph actually is a function. And so I have two graphs here that we will be looking at. The first one is a discrete graph. The second one is a continuous. With our discrete graph, when we look at our domain and our range, we write our answers in the form of a list. Okay, so I'm going to look at my domain first. My domain is made up of my x values. And again, because it's a discrete, I'm going to go ahead and write a list out. So I'm looking here at my x values. So for this point, remember x is left and right. So this is the x-axis. The y-axis goes up and down. Okay, for my x-axis, I'm going to go left 1, 2, 3 to get to this point. And so this point's x value is at -3. So that's going to be my first domain. For this point, I'm going to go left 1, 2. And so for that point, I'm at -2. This one is located at 1, right? 1 over, so +1. This point up here is also located at 1, but because I've already listed it, I'm going to go ahead and leave it. I don't need to write it again. And then this last point over here is located at 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's my answer for domain. For my range, remember your range are your y values. And we talked in class about the fact that it goes in alphabetical order. It's just a memory tool, right? D comes before R, just like X comes before Y. So domain are my X, range are my Y. For this point right here, this is located at 2 down, so -2. Again, because it's discrete, I'm going to write it as a list. This point here is located at 0, up and down, right? All I've done is gone over. I haven't gone up and down at all, so it's located at 0 for my y value. This point over here is located at 1 on my y-axis. This point is also located at 1. And again, I don't need to write them twice. And then this point up here is located at 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's my range. And then the final thing we looked at, like I said, was whether or not a function was shown. So is it a function or not? And to answer that, we use the vertical line test. We ask ourselves, is there a place where one point is directly above another point? And so when I'm looking at this graph, I'm looking, well, is that point directly above another point? Well, when I go up and down, nope, we're good. How about this point? Up and down, nope, we're good. This point here, when I go up, I hit this point up here. This top point is directly above the point that sits on the x-axis. And so because we have that hovering point, it is not a function. Okay? So it's one example problem. This other problem, looking at a continuous graph, we're going to ask ourselves the same questions. What is the domain? What is the range? And is it or is it not a function? Remember, your domain are your x values, right? Domain are my x values. Okay, well for this graph, because it's continuous, I'm going to be writing this within the context of an inequality to indicate an interval that has been covered. Because I can't list all of these. Right? There are an infinite number of points that lie between these two endpoints. And so, I mean, you die before you finished writing all of them, right? I mean, it's infinite. And so instead of listing them like we did with the discrete one, we're going to indicate an interval. Okay, domain at x value. So the question is, what is the smallest x value my graph touches and the largest x value my graph touches? Well, the smallest x value is out here at this point. That's the furthest left I've gone. And that point is at -1, -2, -3, -4. Right? And what is the largest one? Well, the largest one is this point. That's the furthest right I've gone, which is at 1, 2. That's my domain. Okay, for my range, also to be written in an interval. Remember, range are my y values, so I'm going to be asking myself what's the smallest y value and the largest y value. Well, the smallest y value is this point. That's the furthest down I've gone. It's down here at -2. And my largest y value is up here at 2, +2. Okay, so that's my range. And then the final question, is it a function or not? Remember, vertical line test, we have to ask ourselves, is there any spot where we see a point directly above another point? Well, if I start here on the left, nothing directly above it, and as I work my way sideways, there's never a point on this graph where there's another point directly above it, right? All the way over to this second endpoint. I've never had a point that was directly above another. And so this is a function.